We are doing this because this roof looks ugly.
Welcome, I'm Ramin, and this is Anna, and together we built a camper van for us to travel in with our dogs. Join us in the process of converting this into this. Welcome back. We left you off after the last episode with a mention that we were heading towards Lofoten for a trip there. We'll skip that video for now, try to get back to that later. Now we're trying to get through all of the build series and get to the state in which our van currently is. During our trip to Lofoten, we both caught tularemia, and mine was not so bad. Anna's was quite a bit worse, which put a damper pretty much on all of our plans for that autumn, or whatever trips we would have done that autumn. So we're talking about the autumn of 2020. And of course, at the same time, we were helping Anna's parents build a house, so that took up quite a bit of our free time. This video now will be a combination of the work we've done on the van in two off seasons, so 20 and 21, and then 21 and 22. Looks like now it's found a pretty good point of balance with which we can live and we can do long trips with. Some of the changes we did in 2021 were more cosmetic, more dealing with issues that we just found. Most significantly, the changing of the ceiling inside. But then in the summer of 21, we noticed that we were spending a lot of time in the van. We weren't just using it for weekend trips or holiday trips, but we were just traveling around doing work days in it. So we ended up doing quite a bit of changes related to making it more livable while we're working as well. But now let's go to the ceiling change and the stuff we filmed way back when we were doing it.
We are doing this because this roof looks ugly. We have to add some more supports. Is that enough for a reason?
Yeah, so you can see it probably here the best, how the ceiling's quite wavy because there's a really long distance between the roof supports. So we need to add some framing in there, and then at the same time we'll do a bit of a facelift. So when we opened up the ceiling of Noor, we found, or there were a few spots where some moisture got between the vapor barrier and then the plywood that we had on the ceiling. So as a part of this now, we're going to, of course, clean up all of the mold that's in those few spots of where the moisture got there, and then we're going to treat the other side or the off side of the wood as well, or the plywood, just to get it to be more moisture resistant. Naulauslevyt loppu, niin jatketaan keinolla millä hyvänsä. Okay, so we've spent the last couple of days painting the plywood, or finishing the plywood that's going to come into the ceiling, and then building up a frame that will then hopefully keep everything up better than the current or the previous version did. So there's the frame. There's still some supports holding the gluing in place, and now we start putting back in the insulation, and hopefully
I'm gonna cut the first piece.
Hopefully, once we get the installation in place and do this, that, and everything else, we can get to putting in the moist vapor barrier and then put the plywood back on. We spent yesterday pretty much all day working on cutting the pieces of the fin foam, or XPS board or whatever you'd call it, or in fact this is PIR foam board mostly. And now today we've been working on the vapor barrier, but this time instead of using aluminum tape, we've been using this green, extremely sticky Sticko tape, which we were introduced to at Anna's parents' construction site, and it's very much better than the aluminum tape because it's not so fragile and it does exactly the same thing. Plus it's extremely sticky and sticks to everything. Hopefully this will be the most expensive project for Noor this year, or at least single project, switching out these old summer tires to Michelin Agilis Cross Climates, which in fact our ambulances use as summer tires. They're rated for winter use pretty much everywhere, but Michelin and no sane person recommends them for winter use in the Nordics, but they'll be good 3-season tires for us, and if we ever need to go to Europe during the winter, we can switch them and still legally drive in the Nordics with them as well. Okay, modern day Ramin here. I did mention that we weren't planning on driving with the new tires in Finland or in the Nordics during the winter. In fact, we have driven quite a bit with them. Since we put them on the van, we haven't used our winter tires at all. And from our experience, these tires have worked well enough for all our uses. And we now also have snow chains if it's really, really slippery, so that we can use those. But basically on normally maintained winter roads, these tires have been excellent. I'm really happy with them. And we have ended up going to Central Europe and the UK during the winter tire season, so having them on the vehicle has been very good because we didn't need to switch tires or try to think of how are we going to manage with studded tires for part of the trip and unstudded tires for the the rest of the trip, because in most of Central Europe and the UK, studded tires are illegal. Well, the lighting we have is enough for just general lights. We wanted to get some mood lighting and something we can change up depending on our mood. So we installed a RGBW LED light strip all around the van. So the next project, after finishing the ceiling and installing the light and dealing with the rust issues we had. Okay, I mentioned rust issues, but just in passing, and we apparently don't have any other clips about it. In Finland, you have to MOT vehicles every so often. For those of you who don't know what an MOT is, it's basically a legal requirement that the car is checked for roadworthiness. For newer vehicles, it's every third year, every second year, something like that, but Nora's old enough that it has to be checked every year. And one part of the check is rust issues, or rust in the undercarriage, and in 21 Nora failed the inspection because of rust, so those had to be dealt with and fixed. Is making a change to our garbage cabinet. So what we have is, we currently have this IKEA bag holder, which serves as our garbage bag holder, under the sink where typically the garbage is. But what I'm thinking of is building a shelf right here at this level, which we could pull out and have these, again, IKEA garbage buckets, 2 of them there, so that we can either have, say, bio-waste and other waste or something, but that would leave us then space here on the side for all of the cleaning fluids, etc., that we even now currently have here. In addition to the changes, which we managed to film quite well back then, we also installed the bike rack in the back of the van. A few pictures of it in use here. The big change we did to make Noor better for everyday work days was switch up our table situation a bit. But that I'll film at some point and insert the clip here where I'll talk about more exactly of what exactly the changes were once we got the van clean enough to film inside. Yeah, so originally we'd set up the table so it was an extension of this countertop that you can see in this overlay here. And the Lagoon table leg then was down below it, and we could take it away from the countertops, but extension of the countertop to be a table. And it worked okay when we didn't have the extension of the couch. But then when we built this extension to the couch, it pretty much did it so that we could only use the table in only one part of the couch. And that's why we then moved the Lagoon support to here and built a permanent extension to the countertop and installed the table on a holder underneath the extended countertop, and then now we have the table so that we can put it here, and then it'll spin so that we can sit facing each other, both working. I typically work with the table somewhere around there, sitting in that corner, but we can both sit however we want pretty much, and the table is usable in a lot of circumstances and in a lot of situations, so it works fairly well. And after these changes, we were off to finish Lapland and Northern Norway then in the autumn of 2021, and we spent several weeks on the road and didn't really take any vacation time during that, so I was working during the days. We took hikes in the evenings or afternoons. Sometimes if I had a slower day, we'd take a day off and I'd work then in the evening or something like that, but we managed to test it in an actual living scenario, and the van worked really well now with the changes we've done. Okay, I mentioned in the beginning that we have 2 seasons of changes in this video, but in the edit I realized that it was just simply too long. So these were the edits of 2021, and next we'll get to the edits of 21 to 22 and come back and see what else we did.